Hi everybody! I asked you guys to submit your chameleon enclosures for me to take a look at and provide some feedback. First off, I want to say thank you to everybody who submitted their enclosures for me to look at. Excited to see what you guys have your chameleon set up in. Also, keep in mind, this is just my feedback and my 2 cents and my opinion on improvements or things that you guys are doing well. If you're watching and your enclosure isn't being reviewed, still take it as a learning opportunity. Maybe there's things that someone else is doing that you're doing and I make a suggestion. Or maybe there's something someone else is doing, oh, that's really cool, I should do that too. Take this as an opportunity to learn and get inspired by other people's chameleon enclosures. This next person has 2 chameleons, 2 cages. They think they are 2 male-veiled baby chameleons. They're saying probably a month old. If you're not sure how to sex a veiled chameleon, I made a whole video about that, so I'll link that down in the description box below. And their names are Cammy and Leon. Get it? Chameleon. That's cute. The cage is 24 by 24 by 48 inches tall screen enclosure. Awesome. Basking temperature is normally 85. Awesome. A 22-inch UVB. Looks like a T5 from the pictures, but it'd be good to know if it's a 5.0, 10.0, 6%, 12%. But a T5, you can tell because it's a skinnier bulb. Humidity ranges from 40 to 50 during the day, 60, 70 at night. This is all like textbook husbandry. This is great. First up, I don't know if this is Cammy or Leon, but one of the two, you can see that UVB and basking temperature. Biggest thing I can say here, again, more horizontal branches, more coverage, and definitely adding in live plants. I don't know if these are on the ground or raised off the ground, but make sure you're doing that. Very similar. This one's a little bit better. It seems to have more coverage and more horizontal branches and vines, but yeah, definitely I would switch to live plants and definitely add in more branches, especially as they get bigger. Like an adult veiled chameleon will not be able to walk these. Like they just get too big, they get too heavy. It works as a baby, but as an adult it won't support their weight. Here we have Thor, who's a 3-month-old veiled chameleon. It says their enclosure size is 31.2 is 16.8 by 9 inches, which seems like a very random size. Says that we'll get him a bigger enclosure once he's older. Again, upgrade sooner than later. Basking temperature is around 92 degrees. This is really toasty for a 3-month-old. That's like what you would want for an adult. I would either lower the wattage of the basking bulb or the basking branch to be closer to 85. It says they use the Evergreen Pet Supplies 100-watt UVA UVB bulb off Amazon, and he loves it. I would recommend getting the T5 linear UVB. I have a whole video on UVB of like what UVB to use, why I'm making those recommendations, why chameleons need UVB. So I'll be sure to link that down below, but the dual compact UVB heat bulb is not the way to go. I would definitely change that sooner rather than later. And his humidity is between 50 and 55%, which is on the higher end, not terrible, but again, veils are like more in the 40-50% range. So looking at the enclosure, looks like you have a live plant in there, which is great. I would remove that bark at the bottom. I've made a few comments on this now. We want a bare bottom. There's really no benefit to having substrate unless it's fully bioactive, so get rid of that. And I think you could probably add another live plant on that right-hand side. I think that would be a great addition, and can give some more things to climb and more coverage, and then maybe just a few more horizontal branches. But biggest things, getting the correct UVB, removing that bark, and then a larger enclosure and lowering that basking temperature, and then you'll be in good shape. Here's another example of someone who doesn't have their chameleon yet. The name's picked out, Leo, which is adorable, and they already have their enclosure set up in preparation for their chameleon, which is going to be a 3-month-old male veiled chameleon. Basking temperature is 88, which is on the higher end. I drop it down a few degrees, closer to 84, 85 for a chameleon that young. UVB is a T5 HO 10.0. A 10.0 is a lot of UVB for a baby veiled chameleon. I'd probably recommend going for a 5.0 UVB as a baby, and then maybe as they get older, then you could swap it out for that 10.0. But 10.0, that's a lot. I'd probably go for a 5.0 instead. So taking a look at this enclosure, this is actually this is a solid enclosure. It looks like you have the dragon ledges that you're utilizing. Great horizontal branches. I see that pothos at the top corner. Like I said, I'm a fan. That'll grow nicely to fill out the enclosure. Looks like you have an umbrella plant in there. Best of luck keeping it alive. Lots of branches. Yeah, this is a pretty solid enclosure. I would maybe add a plant. You have that front right corner. You could totally add a plant on the ground there. Hard to tell from the picture, but that would be a great spot. Here we have Dino, the 4-month-old male veiled chameleon in a 24 by 24 by 48. Awesome. 50 to 60% humidity. Again, slightly on the higher end for a veiled chameleon, but not terrible. And then 8% wind misted. Biggest thing that I'm noticing here is that netting at the top of the enclosure. This is like a reptile hammock. I think bearded dragons use them. Either way, they're not made for chameleons, and I personally would never use one. Their nails can get stuck and actually rip out from that. Plus, they don't climb them in the wild. They climb branches and plants in the wild. So if you're trying to get a naturalistic enclosure most similar to what they experience in the wild, I wouldn't use it. You have great coverage towards the top, but again, towards the bottom, it's looking pretty empty. I would add in some horizontal branches. Any empty space is unused space for a chameleon, so I would try to fill that in a bit and then use some live plants, because I think these are mostly fake. I mean, I can see the one live one there, but definitely added more live plants and more horizontal branches. And Dino will be a happy chameleon. We have another female veiled chameleon in 18-18-36, thumbs up. 80 to 85 temp, thumbs up. Humidity range 50 to 60%, again on the slightly higher end for a veiled chameleon. They say they don't know what kind of UVB bulb they're using, but it was provided from the bio dude. Just, you want a T5. A T5 linear UVB is what you're looking for. Her name is Ivy, very cute, and it's bioactive. So just looking at the picture here, I love the little rock at the bottom. This is looking pretty good. Pretty good. You can see like that top third quarter of the enclosure isn't really being used, so maybe try to add a diagonal horizontal branch, something like that. Hard for me to tell what kind of UVB you're using, but if you look on the bulb, it'll say on the bulb what kind of UVB it is, so definitely double check that it's a T5. Otherwise, I think this is pretty good. Lots of coverage, lots of things to climb on, and just, maybe adding in another branch or two towards the top. Here we have Yucca. They're saying they've had their chameleon for 4 months old, but they don't know the age. It's a female veiled chameleon. She looks full grown. I would definitely get a laying bin ready for her because she should start becoming gravid any day now. They're using 2 bulbs, a daylight blue reptile bulb, 40 watt UVA, so a heat bulb, 40 watts, and then an Exoterra Reptiglow UVB. I would totally toss the UVB. You want a linear T5 UVB. It penetrates much deeper than the compact UVB, especially if you have you really need a T5 for any chameleon, but specifically with females, because they do produce eggs, they have to produce the shell and the calcium for the shell of the egg. They really need a T5. For humidity, they keep it around 60 to 70%. That's pretty high. I mean, you're in a glass enclosure, so it's gonna be harder to keep that lower humidity, but try to get it closer to like 50% if you can. I love the blue background. That's super cool. I would add in more horizontal branches. She doesn't really have anywhere to go this way. You can see she's like holding on to that middle one. The like hammocky thing on the side, I'd probably get rid of that or just use that as a way to attach like a branch going sideways, right? Kind of like shove a branch in there and make it go up or down, something like that. Looks like you have plastic fake plants, so I would try to switch those out for either live plants or silk leaves. The plastic ones can really do some serious damage because it's really hard for a chameleon to take a bite out of one and pass it without any problems. Okay guys, I think we have 3 more. So we have a female veiled chameleon named Seven, who is 6 or 7 months old. Basking temp, so is 78 to 89 degrees Fahrenheit, which is definitely on the toastier side. Again, we're aiming for 80 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit for a female veiled chameleon. Let's see, humidity roughly around 60 to 70%. That's on the higher end for a veiled chameleon, so see if you can drop that down a bit. They live in Ecuador, and having reptiles as a pet is not common. And it's practically new, as well as my first reptile, so I try my best to work with what I can find. that's awesome, man. Like, way to be scrappy. See if you can get your hands on a T5 linear UVB. If you can't get a T5, see if you can get a T8. Looks like you have lots of branches for her, lots of live plants. I'm not sure what is at the bottom. I'm not sure what that green and red stuff is, but probably want to get rid of that. Make sure you're providing her a laying bin or somewhere where she can lay her eggs. See if you can get that humidity down a bit. See if you can also get some, if you have a really great branch, that big one that's like coming through the middle, that's great. If you can add a few more like that, going, you know, the other direction, going sideways, I think that would be in a really good spot. A big thing that I'm seeing is using this red light. So red lights are not recommended for chameleons. They can be harmful for their eyes. We really just want to use white lights. I talk more about this in my heat video, so feel free to check that out if you want to learn more about red lights. But yeah, that's the feedback I have. I mean, I get that you're in, you know, a country that doesn't have a lot of reptile keeping. Also really cool you're from Ecuador. Like, that's awesome that my videos reach that far. So yeah, do the best you can. Just try to get her some UVB. Try to swap that red light out for a white light. Here we have our first outdoor enclosure. This is pretty cool. This is Pascal, who's almost 1 year old, male veiled chameleon. UVB is the real sun because it's outdoor. Yep, doesn't get better than that. Humidity is 60 to 65. Again, you're working within the elements, right? Wherever you are living, if you're keeping your chameleon outside. So based off this picture, looks like we have a nice big stick in the front. That's great. The umbrella plant, I would just try to, so that bottom right corner, you want to see if you can add another potted plant to give some coverage there. And then that top left corner, see if you can add something up there. I know you've commented on a few of my videos of what live plants to get, so check out your local nursery. Anything your local nursery is keeping outside, odds are it'll do well in a chameleon enclosure outside, right? Because it's basically the same elements. So try and get a plant in that top left and that bottom right, and I think you'll be in good shape. You have lots of sticks in there, so far so good. Last but not least, we have Pepito, the 4 to 6 month old male veiled chameleon. It says, I don't think you can pronounce that, but thanks, bye. Pepito, is that how you say it? I think that's how you say it. He says 4 to 6 months, but honestly this chameleon looks older, probably closer to 7 to 8 months based off of coloration and cast size, but I don't know their hatch date, that's just me guessing. They don't mention anything about humidity, but I would make sure that's where it needs to be. Looking at this enclosure, this plant you have in the middle is awesome. Like, that provides so many branches. I see you have 2 horizontal branches, or like vines, looks like, towards the top. I would try to do like 2 more in the middle and 2 more towards the bottom. Give more horizontal branches. Also, you have room for like another live plant at the bottom. I would consider adding one down there. The biggest thing that I'm seeing that needs to change is that red light that you're using for heat. Red lights can be harmful for your chameleons. I think I touched on that briefly earlier, so I would switch that out to a white light. You can just pick up a house bulb that gives you the correct temperatures. It doesn't need to be like a fancy, you know, reptile one, but that's the biggest change I would make. Otherwise, I think this looks great, and I think you'll have a happy chameleon on your hands. Alright guys, we covered a lot of enclosures. Hopefully you can take these suggestions and improve your cage. If I didn't cover your cage specifically, hopefully you can still get inspiration and ideas from other people's enclosures. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Leave any questions or comments down below. Feel free to subscribe so you know when I post a new video. You can follow Neptune and all my chameleons on Instagram at Neptune the Chameleon. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye! Go ahead and take a quick intermission while the misters are going off.